Welcome to Channel's Business Global with me, Juliana Olayinka, where I have been reporting all week at the World Economic Forum here in Davos, Switzerland, where Nigeria has marked a historic first on the world stage. For the first time, Nigeria established an official sovereign pavilion at the World Economic Forum, Nigeria House Davos, positioning the country at the centre of global economic conversations, investor engagement and policy dialogue. We'll take you inside Nigeria House, the deals, the diplomacy and the message that Nigeria took to the world. And then we'll be bringing you the biggest international headlines shaping this year's World Economic Forum. Nigeria House Davos officially opened on Monday on the Davos Promenade, the most visible and competitive space at the World Economic Forum.
It marks a significant milestone. The pavilion was inaugurated by Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima, who described the initiative as a symbol of Nigeria's renewed seriousness, readiness and resolve, a clear shift from watching global conversations from the sidelines to actively shaping them.
We cannot meaningfully market the opportunities that abound in our nation without first building a structure for engaging the world. Nations do not prosper in isolation. We are where we are today, fundamentally because we open our doors to the world, and because we have so much to offer a global economy still in search of balance, of growth and shared prosperity. Equally, we have much to gain from those who wish to invest in Nigeria. That exchange can only be realized through deliberate communication and sustained interaction. It is therefore an honor to stand before you this evening to share the promise that this day represents. This day represents an extraordinary day in the history of our engagements at this beautiful meeting point of global political leadership, policy thinkers and corporate enterprise. For the first time in our nation's history, Nigeria stands at Davos with a sovereign pavilion of its own. Nigeria House is a response to the lapses of the past. It reflects our intentions. It reflects our seriousness. It reflects our commitment. Above all, it advertises both our readiness and our resolve to take a frontline seat in the discourse of the global economy, not as observers, but as participants with a clear sense of purpose and place. Nigeria House may have been conceived as a whole-of-government platform led by the Honorable Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, with senior leadership across investment, foreign affairs, energy, infrastructure, technology, climate, and culture gathered under one roof. But its true essence must come from the private sector. Government can open doors, create frameworks, and de-risk environments. Only enterprise can animate growth, scale opportunity, and translate policy into productivity. This house will thrive to the extent that it draws life from private capital, private innovation, and private confidence. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, the message of this house is simple and deliberate. We are replicating on the global stage what His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has delivered at home in repositioning Nigeria's economy. We are here to engage the world from a position of strength. It's one of the world's largest emerging markets. Nigeria is a nation of over 242 million people today, with a median age of about 17 years. And the trajectory of global growth is facing Africa. And certainly, most certainly, Nigeria will make or mar that transition. It is pertinent to mention that 1 out of every 4 black men is a Nigerian. And by 2050, Nigeria will surpass the United States will be the third most populous nation on earth with a population of 440 million people. That demographic reality explains the revolutionary energy of our youth at the heart of Africa's digital economy and their dominance across technology, fintech, creative industries, and entrepreneurship.
For 5 days, Nigeria House was a central hub, hosting global investors, policymakers, multilateral institutions, and business leaders, all under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's Renewed Hope agenda.
Our participation at the World Economic Forum this year is guided by 3 clear objectives, which obviously this establishment is here to support. And the first is reporting progress on our economic reforms. We have taken, as I mentioned earlier, politically difficult but necessary economic decisions over the past 2.5 years or so. And these reforms were not taken lightly. They were designed to correct long-standing, decades-long distortions and to restore macroeconomic stability and build a foundation for private sector-led growth. The economy of Nigeria, the GDP of Nigeria, is 90% in the hands of the private sector. Not just the large corporations, but the small and medium-scale enterprises, the micro enterprises. That is where the economic activity is, and that is where we have to increase productivity, increase output, thereby creating jobs that will lift Nigerians out of poverty in their millions. We are seeing the results of the reform so far. Growth has strengthened, and you are all familiar. I know you're all familiar with the metrics. Growth has strengthened. Inflation is moderating. External buffers have been strengthened and improved, and of course, the exchange rate stabilized, and investor confidence is improving, and you see that in the flows, the capital flows, the foreign exchange flows that have come to the country, as well as through other indicators. The development partners, if you look at the narrative of Nigeria now, it is a relatively positive, forward-looking one. It's an optimistic one. And what is left for us at this stage is to stay the course, is to maintain the trajectory. And that itself includes difficult choices, because, as always, as in economics, unlimited wants, limited means. So critical and strategic prioritization has to be done, and that, of course, is led by the priorities of His Excellency the President. Also, coming to Davos is about accountability. We are here to report progress, transparency, and honesty, and to demonstrate that reforms that are being consolidated and not reversed. And central to this, as we've said, is sound macroeconomic management. And I think it's important to point out that this includes the operational independence of Central Bank of Nigeria. Under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the letter and the spirit of the law, which gives autonomy and independence to Central Bank, is being kept, is being met. That deserves applause, given the circumstances. And of course, CBN remains a cornerstone of price stability and investor confidence as we all join hands in fighting inflation. The second objective of being here is to deepen the dialogue with you, both potential investors and indeed our development partners. And that's in line with the true spirit of this forum.
One of the most closely watched moments was a fireside chat with the Director General of the World Trade Organization, Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala. She spoke candidly about the opportunities and risks facing Nigeria and the continent in an increasingly fragmented global trade environment.
The multilateral trading system has been severely disrupted. It is the biggest disruptions in world trade in 80 years. Since the system was created. So the WTO started as the General Agreement of Tariffs on Tariffs and Trade 80 years ago and morphed into the WTO 30 years ago. So it's both 80 years old and 30 years old. Anybody that can celebrate 2 birthdays, and you know you're really something. But the point is that this is the biggest disruption. A major member of the WTO says the system no longer works for them, and they have a lot of criticisms. That's the US. I don't agree with the actions they've taken, the unilateral actions. They know this. I say this publicly. But I do agree with a lot of the criticisms they have of the system, and we'll come to that. And Nigeria, the developing countries also have their criticisms that the system is not working as well for them, not integrating them. Africa's share of world trade is actually 3% of global trade. So it's not even as good as 4%. It has been stagnant for quite a while, which is not something that is pleasing to us. But I just want to say one thing before I move on to your question of what are the opportunities, because everybody here is dwelling on how bad things are and asking me why I'm looking very bright most of the time they see me. And I want to share that with you. But before I get that, I just want to say that one of the things that we need to recognize is that after all the disruption and the unilateral actions and the battering and bruises and the questioning of the fundamental principles of the WTO, and which I welcome actually, the system is still showing that almost 75% of world trade, 72 to be exact, is still going on WTO terms. This is very surprising to everyone because if you listen, you think the world trading system has collapsed. But it is private sector people who trade. And they're saying much of this system works for us. It was 80% before the American actions. It was never 100% because we have some countries outside of world trade, of the multilateral trading rules. 80, it's now down to 72. But to me, that is a very strong signal of resilience. And global trade grew 2.4% last year, higher than our forecast of 0.9. This year, we are forecasting slower growth. But look, because of AI, why we grew faster last year, trade in AI goods contributed 42% of global trade growth. And if we have that continuing this year, then we could see an upside better than the 0.5. So all I'm trying to say to you is that there are important things that are happening in trade. The WTO has an agreement with 74 members who belong to it, called the Information Technology Agreement. It covers $3 trillion worth of AI-related goods, software, hardware, everything, with very low to zero tariffs, and that's helping to drive this. Now, I'll say this last one, and then in spite of the problems we are seeing, in addition to the resilience, something is happening in trade that is rather exciting. And that is maybe why people see me going about looking quite cautiously optimistic. First is services trade. Services trade is $12 trillion. Total global trade is $30 trillion. In a $110 trillion global economy, services trade is 12 trillion. It's growing at 4.4%, so even faster than goods trade. Within that, digitally delivered services, digital trade, has been growing at 8% per year this past, I would say decade. It's projected to grow at about 6% this year, 5.6%. So it's growing very fast. So there are opportunities for us in that area, and that's where you are trying to drive. And green trade is also growing. Trade in renewables and so on, almost what, 2 trillion. So I'll stop there. There are opportunities. We can go more into it amidst the gloom.